Good morning, my brothers and sisters. Welcome to episode number 91 in the book of Deuteronomy. We sit under the shade trees of justice and generosity. So we kind of sit fat and happy under these shade trees of justice and generosity. And I wonder who planted them. Well, Moses did, with God's help. And when? Well, it's all described in the book of Deuteronomy 3,500 years ago. So let's start with money. I wonder if the Deuteronomy has anything to say about money. Well, there's one thing that's particularly disturbing, and that is at the end of every 7 years, you're supposed to grant a release. Every creditor is supposed to release the person that's borrowed money who has let to their neighbor. And it's that moment, and we can't underemphasize this point. It's the point where lending, where you're expecting to get this back, becomes giving, where you don't expect it to come back. And it's a crazy kind of moment. Why is that? Well, the idea is that the Lord has given release, and so we're supposed to be reflecting that. So it's this critical moment where we connect what you do with your ledger book, with your money, between you and other men, with the ledger book of what God has done between Him and us. And so it's ready to release. Or even to be wronged financially. So let's say you lent some money to a fellow person, and at the end of 7 years, he is either unable or unwilling to pay you back. Let's say he's unable. Well, that's a terrible situation. Well, how about if he's unwilling to pay you back? That's even worse. So now there's this breach of trust between people. So if he's unwilling, the idea is you are ready to be wronged financially. So the idea is that I would rather be wronged financially so that I can be right spiritually. So let the right thinking of God's generosity to me be exampled to me between me and my brother, even if it is abused, even if this doesn't work out well for me fiscally. So the Lord desires us to be in a position of mercy towards the people of God. Why? Well, because the Lord's release has been proclaimed upon me. So the big concept is that the Lord's in the mercy business, and that means we don't deserve it. So it's not out of bounds then for us also to be mostly in the mercy business. So in regards to our sin, the Lord releases us from justice, which is wrath, by being the justifier for that for us. So the motivation for us to take a financial hit and release another financially is that He has released us spiritually. And we demonstrate that we get what He has done for us spiritually by demonstrating to another financially. So people that are involved in the lending and releasing with their hard-earned cash are people that get what God has done. In a sense, He generously, sacrificially, permanently lends with an open hand to us, expecting nothing in return. I'm speaking with God's voice there. And if the people of God understand that, they will endeavor to do so as well. So He really asks us here to do our accounting in heaven, not here on earth. So we sit under the shade trees of generosity, and so we should act like it financially. All right, so that's point number one, is the generosity of God. We should be generous with others. Secondly, this point of justice. So we also, even as we sit here today in our society, we sit under the shade trees of justice that we did not plant. Well, who planted them? God did when in Moses' time. And we depend significantly now on the justice that was established 3,500 years ago. Now, the big concept in justice is the Lord wants justice in His society because He is just. And so we're supposed to be carrying His image, His justice in real time to real people in a real place. So we want to have an eye to justice and protect the poor, protect the widow, protect the sojourner, and so that they won't be abused. So God changes everything. So everybody had a relationship with justice before Deuteronomy's time. And here it is. The relationship with justice was that they did not expect it, just flat out. And then God comes on the picture into His people, and He changes everything. And then after that, they did hope for justice. And we kind of say we expect justice. So for a robust legal process, he establishes the 2 or 3 witnesses are required. And false witnesses should be banished because he's preventing evil in his people group. So future evil is prevented by placing the punishment for bearing false witness, not upon the defendant, but upon the false accuser himself. In other words, if he falsely accuses, he's going to get a similar charge, a similar punishment upon himself if he does this falsely. And then retribution. There's all kinds of these aspects of justice. Retribution is taken out of the hands of relatives, which they were responsible up to this point, and put in the hands of the state. So capital punishment, the state's in charge of that now. Avenging the blood is set up with this chain of justice from the state. And why is that? Well, it's because of the value of life. Where does that come from? That comes from the Lord himself. And therefore, it's the responsibility of a wrong society to enact justice, often take the life of the killer. So it's society's job to protect the innocent and purge the guilt of innocent blood. That is, to purge the person who has wrongly taken innocent blood. So God invents sanctuary cities. And the purpose of a sanctuary city is not that the guilty could go hide there, but that the innocent can go take refuge there. So he wants us to purge evil from among us. The point here is to end up with a pure people that reflects a holy God that it represents. So we all find ourselves today sitting under the shade trees of justice and generosity that we did not plant. Well, who planted them? God did. When? In Moses' time. And we depend today significantly upon the justice and the generosity that's established way back in Deuteronomy. So when did justice start? Kind of in the book of Deuteronomy. Why should I be generous? Well, because God has been generous to me and my people. How do I know this? Well, it's written in the book of Deuteronomy. See how we sit so fat and happy under the shade trees of justice and generosity? Who planted them? Moses did with God's help. When? In Deuteronomy. We should read Deuteronomy. We should learn about justice and generosity. Thanks for listening.